I couldn't figure it out. I said, I don't know. I had to turn the page. And the answer was so simple and yet so profound. It's love. It's love. Now, I had the opportunity to meet Clinton Roman, Afghanistan. And he mentions at the award ceremony in Washington, conducted by President Obama, that he was the one recipient alive. The other 8 were posthumous. And some of the family members of those deceased veterans were there. One mother could not. She wrote a letter to Mr. Obama, which he read, and I will do a few extracted sentences from it. But in this letter, she explained how her son, Stephen Mace, deeply cared about his brothers in the Black Knight Troop, including a willingness to sacrifice his life for them. And she wrote, that sacrifice was driven by pure love. And it's that deep, deep emotion which is unfulfilled when we leave the service. And it's very hard transitioning from service to civilian life, and particularly for our veterans today serving who are going back and forth on many tours of duty. Another featured speaker recently at the museum was a retired Colonel Christopher Kalenda, who served also in Afghanistan. He alerted us to the fact that many Desert Storm veterans are entering a very, very fragile moment in their life, the age of 45, midlife crisis sometimes it's called. And this can lead to self-destruction through drugs, crime, and even suicide. And they need our help, now more than ever, to give them a new sense of hope that the love and security they once knew in the service is still available. But we have to draw them out, and their isolation is what prevents them from coming out. So please allow them the honor of rejoining society without judgment of their behaviors and their loss of connection. Therefore, let us stand with all of them in tangible ways, such as jobs, education, health care, housing, disability benefits, and especially emotional support. And we here in Wisconsin and Madison are very fortunate to have the VA hospital, the State Department of Veterans Affairs, the Vet Center, the Dane County Veterans Service Organization under the leadership of Dan Connery that has been an able pathfinder to help veterans address and navigate the process of attaining various state and federal program benefits. So let's begin the ceremony with the Armed Forces Salute. It's going to be played by the Post 1318 VFW Band under the leadership of James Latimer, and I'll use that word. We're honored to have Mayor Satya Rhodes Conway call the service songs. Please rise when your service song is played.
The United States Army. the United States Coast Guard. The United States Marine Corps. The United States Air Force. The United States Navy.
All right. Thank you, Jim and Mayor Satya. Now I ask you all, please rise and remain standing for the presentation of the colors, the national anthem, Pledge of Allegiance, and the invocation. The Sons of the American Revolution, under the command of William Austin, will present our national colors accompanied by reenactors portraying other war veterans. And now the national anthem. Monica Wakesters will sing the Star Spangled Banner.
see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars for the perilous flight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the ramparts bravely the bombs bursting in air gave proof of the night that our flag was still there. Oh, Caesar's that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the
Thank you, Monica. Next, I'm going to call Linda Tanner Freydig of the Governor Nelson Dewey chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. Join me here and do the Pledge of Allegiance for us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Linda. And next, Tom Eberzetsy, chaplain of the Madison Veterans Firing Council, will give us the invocation. Chaplain?
O Lord Almighty, remember those who have died fighting to protect the dignity and the freedom of mankind. Let our hearts be compassionate and our minds clear, determined in giving them honor and respect. Let us all be dependent on the loving kindness of the Lord our God. As we remember the departed, let us be courage, protective, and true guardians of freedom. Let us be true masters of brotherly love. O Lord, give us the way of moral responsibility. Enlighten us and making us true believers in morale and justice. Let the day be a day of commemoratory and honor to those who sacrificed in order to give us liberty, our nation's security. Remember, O Lord, in your mercy, have compassionate on us. Make us a generation of wisdom, discipline, good faith. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Tom. And now the introduction of honored guests. Those here today who are from the veteran audience, please stand or wave when I call the roll. World War II veterans. You may not saw him, Lou Harned. Lou Harned, 98 years old, fought in World War II, Korea, and Desert Storm. I had the pleasure of dining with him at one of the Veterans Mess Nights, it's called, and he said, you know, I don't know how I miss Vietnam. So I'll spare him from standing for Korean War. Are there any other Korean War veterans here? Not. I mentioned Desert Storm. Next. Thank you. Bosnia veterans. Not. Iraq, Afghanistan veterans. Thank you all for your service. And now please join me in welcoming our special dignitaries. Please hold your applause to the end and then let it rip. Tony Evers, Governor of the state of Wisconsin. By the way, that comment about holding the applause was just a test. You guys don't know how to follow orders. You weren't in the military. Okay, and I have to say this. There's so much tension goes on in service that soldiers, we all, any service member, any branch, we love to joke, we love to tease, we've got to do something to release that intense pressure of knowing we survived this event, but we're heading back in again, minutes, days, hours, or weeks. So it's great to see some laughter in this opportunity in the ceremony. Thank you. The second is Monica Sundel from Senator Tammy Baldwin's office. There you are. Thank you. We also have State Senator Melissa Agard. And then we have Samba Baldi, Diane Hesselbein, and Sheila Stubbs, all Wisconsin Assembly representatives. Joe Parisi, County Exec. And then Mayor Satya Rhodes Conway, we had the pleasure of seeing. And with her, Christine Baumer, her deputy mayor. There you are. We also have the Madison Veterans Council officers, myself as president. Then we have Fred Campbell, secretary. William Austin, commander of the DAR Color Guard. I should say sons of the American SAR, not DAR. Thank you. And then over here, we've already heard from Tom Eberzesik, the chaplain, and Joe Luscraft, captain of the firing squad. Once more, Jim, I'm going to call on you, and he's going to play a favorite tune from the 1318 VFW Band. They will play a tune by John Philip Sousa, Wisconsin Forward Forever. Thank you.
I think we were talking about the other guy that served in Vietnam. He didn't mention
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you, Jim and band members. You know, two things need to be caught up on. One is I forgot to mention the Vietnam veterans in the roll call. Many Vietnam vets here. Thank you so much. It must be one of those things where I'm in that same era, and I just went past me. But there's still hope. So the other piece of thing is I'm part of the Navy League, and I didn't recognize Jim. Jim, I saw you in the audience, president of the Navy League. There he is. And he heads up over 200 volunteers at the local VA hospital. He's a Marine aviator, fighter pilot. Again, the list goes on and on, but that's the kind of people that are here in Madison supporting us today supporting our community. And the last piece of it, talking about the Navy, is I was in the Army, as you know, but we like scuttlebutt too. And a little bit that I picked up on in the last couple of days preparing for the ceremony is that our band leader is 88 years old. Let's give a round of applause for him. Jim, thank you so much. You're a living legend here at the Capitol. So the first speaker I'm going to call today is Mary Kolar from the Department of Veterans Affairs. She is the secretary. I first met Mary about 10 years ago. We served on the foundation of the Veteran Museum Board. So Mary?
Good morning. I am so very pleased to join you this morning, and thank you for being here. It's wonderful to see so many people. My appreciation to the Madison Veterans Council for once again hosting this special Veterans Day observance. And I'm so pleased we're here in our state capitol. And I also want to add a special appreciation to Governor Tony Evers for his support to our military members, veterans, and their families. Thank you, Governor. Today, we pause as a state, as a nation, as a people, to pay tribute to our veterans, to say thank you, to honor the heroes over the generations who have served our country. Since before the founding of our nation, we have been blessed with countless men and women who have stepped forward in our defense. Whenever our freedoms have come under assault, they have answered our government's call and responded with unparalleled resolve. Time and again, at home and abroad, veterans and their families have sacrificed so our society may reap the benefits of peacetime, to embrace life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Veterans Day is when we collectively express our gratitude. This year's official Veterans Day theme is honor. For me, this means renewing our commitment, not only this day, but every day, to serving veterans just as well as they served us. Today and throughout this month, we recognize the ongoing contributions veterans, active duty military, and their families have made to our country. As a society, we owe these millions of men and women an incredible debt of gratitude. While we remember the important contributions of the men and women who served in conflicts and peacetime of the past centuries, it's also important that we speak about today's generation of service members. We recognize the 9/11 generation who stepped forward after the towers fell and in the years since. They have served honorably around the globe, fighting terrorism and threats to democracy, extending America's humanity to the furthest reaches, delivering justice and compassion to oppressed people and countries around the world. After more than 2 decades of combat in Iraq and Afghanistan, we are adapting to the needs, expectations, and environment of a new generation of veterans. Young veterans were raised in the age of smartphones and social media. They communicate and connect using tools that are sometimes unfamiliar to older generations. But we must overcome perceived barriers and embrace the freshness derived from our younger brothers and sisters in arms. As a nation, we have learned to welcome our veterans as they return home. We say, thank you for your service, and we stand beside them as they make the transition to become our neighbors, our work colleagues, and our friends. I especially appreciate our Vietnam veterans for ensuring that, unlike how they were treated, today's service members receive a sincere, and I say it to all our Vietnam veterans and all who have served, welcome home. Our promise to veterans is that we will never stop working to support them and deliver the benefits they have earned. As Secretary of WDVA, one of my responsibilities is to ensure Wisconsin veterans can utilize the abundance of benefits, services, and resources available to them in our state. We honor their service by continually delivering these to our eligible veterans and families. That's what we do in Wisconsin. We support our veterans and their families, not just one day or once a year, but honoring them every day and of every year. That is our sacred obligation. When times are tough, we come together and lift each other up. In this country, and especially Wisconsin, we take care of our own, and particularly our veteran community. And we carry on, knowing that the best days lie ahead. To veterans, families, and supporters, thank you. May God continue to bless our country, our veterans, their families, and especially our men and women in uniform. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Now it's my pleasure to call upon the Holy Cross Lutheran Church Choir. Please come forward. The choir is under the direction of Mrs. Nedra Griffin, and they will sing two songs. First, America the Beautiful, then Governor Evers will share some remarks, and then they'll sing a second song, God Bless America. Last year, I recall, they hoped to have 90-some students. They had 104. I haven't gotten the count yet this year, but it looks stronger still, which is terrific. And they're not wearing masks. And they were really good with them, so I can't wait to hear them in full strength. This is the future of America right here. Thank you, Nedra. And now my pleasure to call Governor Evers, please.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you, President Hemphill, for the introduction and all the good work that you do. And thank you all for joining us today for this year's Veterans Day celebration at the Wisconsin State Capitol in honor of the incredible contributions and sacrifices of Wisconsin veterans. Also, I'd like to thank President Hemphill and the Madison Veterans Council for their work to host this event, and of course, Secretary Kolar and all the good folks at the Departments of Veterans Affairs for all they do year-round to make sure that our veterans and their families are supported. Veterans Day was first known as Armistice Day to recognize the millions who fought during World War I. It was renamed Veterans Day in 1954 to honor all the veterans who have served and defended our democracy. Today, we continue with that great tradition. As many of you know, here in the state of Wisconsin, we have 300,000 veterans who call Wisconsin home. And the state is proud to be a key partner in the work to help ensure that each of these individuals and their families can be successful, both during their time of service and following their reentry into civilian life. And as all of you know, veterans also face unique hurdles when they return to civilian life, from mental health and substance use disorders, housing and employment, and much more. These challenges are all too often stand in the way of our veterans living their best and fullest lives, especially over the past 2 years, which have been particularly hard on our veterans and have increased isolation, uncertainty, and financial hardships. Folks, our veterans have given so much in service to our state and country, and they deserve even more help. Through our budget investments over the last few years, we've been able to address some of the challenges facing our veterans, but we can and must do more. Earlier this year, I kept my promise to Wisconsin veterans and created a Blue Ribbon Commission on Veteran Opportunity to support our veterans and tackle these challenges head on. This commission was made up of advocates for veterans, leaders in the veterans community, and most important, veterans and their families. These folks shared their experiences and input to find real solutions to help support Wisconsin veterans, and we're already seeing the results of their good work. Just this last month, I was proud to use the Commission's final recommendations to make a $10 million investment in veteran services across the state. And this included supporting and expanding access to veteran mental health services, directing new funding to the Veterans Outreach and Recovery Program, creating a rental assistance program to serve homeless veterans, increasing funding for the Hire Heroes program at the Department of Workforce Development. This investment also included providing an additional $1.5 million to our county and tribal veterans services offices to increase allocations by 100%. These investments are going to make a real difference for veterans and their families across the state, and I'm incredibly thankful and grateful to the Commission for their work that guided these efforts. But as I said, there's always more we can do, and I look forward to ensuring these investments and recommendations receive the long-term, ongoing support they deserve in our next biennial budget. Because just as our veterans have upheld and defended the freedoms and values that we hold dear, we must uphold our commitment to ensuring both they and their families have the full range of support and services they need to thrive. And I can think of no better way than today to reaffirm ourselves to that commitment. I'd also be remiss if I didn't take a moment to recognize the families of our nation's veterans, the mothers, the fathers, the husbands, the wives, and kids whose loved ones committed themselves to defending our freedom and democracy. So on behalf of the entire state, let me share my sincere appreciation and thanks to our nation's heroes and their families. Thank you for your service and your immense sacrifices. You exemplify the best our state has to offer with a deep sense of duty, loyalty, respect, integrity, courage, and selfless service. And we owe you a tremendous debt of gratitude. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you, Governor Evers. And now we'll hear from the choir again. God bless America. Thank you, Nedra, and all the members of the choir. What beautiful voices. And now our keynote speaker, again this year, Chris Kolakowski, Director of the Madison Veterans Museum. And if I read all of his credits, previous positions, leadership roles, and books he's written, he wouldn't have any chance to speak. So I'm going to cut it off there and say, Chris, please.
Thank you very much, Alan. That might be one of the most pithy and certainly one of the quickest introductions I've ever had, but that's good. Great to see everybody today. Thank you all for coming, and thank you to the Madison Veterans Council for once again asking me to keynote this important ceremony. Good morning. Again, happy Veterans Day, and thank you to all who have worn the uniform in the service of the United States, of all services. I also note that for the British Commonwealth, today is Remembrance Day, which is their equivalent of Memorial Day. And with a name like Kolakowski, I can't let this go unremarked. Happy Independence Day to the Republic of Poland. 80 years ago today, thank you for the applause, by the way. 80 years ago today, the French defenders of North Africa signed a ceasefire, ending the amphibious phase of what is known as Operation Torch, which was the longest invasion in the history of the world. That signing in Casablanca ended with a toast to the eternal friendship between the United States and France. And as George Patton later reported to the Secretary of War, he said they drank $40 worth of champagne, but it was worth it. I also note that today is the 40th anniversary of the dedication of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. By show of hands, how many of you have visited the Vietnam Wall? Wonderful, me too. I went when I was very young, just after the dedication. My parents took me there, and I couldn't figure out why everybody was crying. With the perspective of time, we can understand and recognize the honorable service of Vietnam veterans. And I echo what Secretary Kolar said. For those of you who have not heard it until today, and even for those of you who have heard it before today, welcome home. This year's theme is simple yet very profound: honor. The word is easily defined: integrity, duty, selfless service, and fulfilling obligation to something beyond yourself. However, it is much broader than that simple definition. The very concept is central to the U.S. military. Every service has honor or integrity in its service values. Every military academy has an honor code. The word or associated terms appear in unit mottos in every branch. The highest award for valor is the Medal of Honor. And of course, discharges are honorable at the last rank served with honor. Simply put, to understand the military, you have to understand this fundamental concept. And I would also point out that honor has no expiration date either. Let me offer you a few stories in the time I have and reflections that illustrate this concept in action. First, let's go to Vietnam. Madison's Dan Bennett was a Navy Hospital Corpsman 3rd Class. He was assigned to the 4th Marine Regiment in 1968. In December of that year, 2 months shy of his 22nd birthday, he and the regiment's 2nd Battalion attacked a North Vietnamese regiment at a place called Foxtrot Ridge in Quang Tri Province. The Marines made good progress over several days of tough fighting. And on the morning of December 11th, 1968, Bennett was accompanying a squad into action. He saw Corporal Thomas Rudder go down wounded. He dragged Rudder to cover in a bomb crater and administered aid. Shortly thereafter, Private Raymond Hiley was wounded and called for help. Bennett broke cover to assist. North Vietnamese fire mortally wounded him and killed the 2 wounded men instantly. Bennett died the next day. His body came home to Madison. He's buried today just down the road in Forest Hill Cemetery. He and the 2 men he died trying to save are all listed together on the Vietnam Wall, panel W36. Greater love hath no man than to give his life in the service of his friends. The second story I want to share with you that illustrates honor in action dates from December, but December of 1950. It's after the Battle of the Cho Sin Reservoir, which in itself is a whole presentation. And the retreat, the 60 miles of retreat through the mountains and through the very cold weather, some of the coldest weather Americans have ever encountered in their service. These Marines and Army troops, accompanied by British as Royal Commandos, were able to make their way along with South Koreans to the coast. Over 12 days, from December 12th to December 24th of 1950, it's the American Dunkirk. They evacuated 105,000 American, British, South Korean personnel, including all their equipment. But here's the thing. The orders for the evacuation were silent on what to do about the 98,000 Korean civilians who had packed everything they had and could carry and walked to Hungnam, clamoring to get out as well. Legally, they could have been left on the beach. But the commander, Edward Almond, and his staff realized that morally, that was not the right choice. And so he said all excess shipping space will be dedicated to Korean refugees. They packed 14,000 into one merchant ship. They packed another 5,000 on average into those LSTs, if you're familiar with those. 5 children were born at sea on the way to Busan in South Korea. And they got them all out before the end. Now, this has reverberations to today. This morally courageous and honorable choice by American officers has reverberations to today. Why, you may ask? Because of 2 of the people that were saved among those refugees. There was a couple named Moon, and 2 years after that, they had a son named Jae-in. Moon Jae-in in 2017 was elected the president of South Korea. He was president until earlier this year. When he came to the United States for his first state visit, his first stop was not the White House. It was Quantico, to the memorial to the Cho Sin Hungnam campaign. And he said, and I always get a little choked up when I say this, "Thank you for saving my parents." And he made this comment there. He said, "Because of the essential humanity of the United States military, I do not fear for the future of our alliance." when I was at Fort Knox running the General George Patton Museum of Leadership, and we would use leadership historical case studies to teach leadership concepts to officers. Moral courage and honor. This was the case study I used, was this evacuation, and how it still reverberates even to this day over 7 decades. The last one is told very quickly. It's June 20th of 1944. Hillsboro, Wisconsin born Mark Mischer, commanding Task Force 58th, having just destroyed the Japanese naval air power the day before in what is known as the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot, has sent his very powerful Task Force 58 to go hunt the Japanese fleet as they are fleeing in front of him. Late in the afternoon, the American reconnaissance spots the Japanese fleet, and they launch 226 American aircraft to go and hunt them and try and kill Japanese carriers. It's late in the day. They launch a successful raid, and as they come back, they're running low on fuel, they're at the extreme end of their range, and most importantly, night is falling. And in World War II, navigation at night was much trickier than it is today. And here's the other thing. There's a standing order in the Pacific Fleet that at night you're supposed to be completely dark in your ship. Not supposed to turn the lights on. But Mark Mischer realized, as did some of his subordinates, we sent them out. We are honor-bound to get them back. And so Mischer ordered the lights turned on. And every ship in Task Force 58, we're talking over 1,000 ships, suddenly lit up in this patch of the Philippine Sea. Destroyers fired star shells into the air so that the flyers could get home. 80% of those planes made it back, either landing on a carrier or ditching in the sea and being rescued in the next day or two with a massive air-sea rescue search that got those flyers back. Now, it's important to note as well that honor is not restricted to the battlefield. Recruiters and trainers model service values to the public and to new recruits. Support units and staff are important parts of the team. If cooks aboard ship don't do their job well, the entire crew and unit suffers. Aviators depend on ground crews to keep and have their aircraft mission ready. Ground forces are not much good without supply people providing gas and bullets. And everyone needs mail from home, which is why units like the all-black female 688th Postal Battalion, which was recently honored with the Congressional Gold Medal, were so important and are so important to the war effort. These people, all performing these thankless tasks with honor and integrity, are essential to what the military does and has done every day. Recently, the Congressional Gold Medal was awarded to the members of Merrill's Marauders. For those of you who may not know, this unit, the 5307th Composite Unit Provisional, is a forerunner to the 75th Ranger Regiment today. They served in Burma in 1944, marching and fighting through some incredibly arduous terrain, earning a Presidential Unit Citation. What kept them going? In part, it was a desire to fulfill their obligations to the unit. As the late Sergeant Gilbert Howland told me in 2019, he said, "Those were my buddies. I couldn't let them down." There's a photograph of General Joseph Stilwell in the field awarding the Silver Star to members of the unit. It is far from a spit and polish ceremony, but was no less meaningful to the participants. Even in the jungles of North Burma, these Americans took time for an awards parade to honor service and sacrifice in battle. And every time I hear the national anthem and see a color guard, including today, I think of that ceremony. It shows the importance of honor, the importance of honoring service, and just how far American service members have gone around this globe. As we reflect on this day and these stories, I'd like to leave you with 2 points. The first is the amazing people who have served and are serving this nation today. And second, the need to honor, keep faith with, and take care of those who served and sacrificed in defense of the United States. Every day we need to earn that sacrifice and take care of the country that they have bequeathed us. I close with the Kohima epitaph. When you go home, tell them of us and say, for your tomorrow, we gave our today. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Chris. It's now an opportunity for us to do the rifle salute and taps, the military's way of honoring our deceased fallen comrades. The armistice ending World War I began on the 11th day of November 1918 at 11 a.m. French time. The armistice itself was agreed to only 5 hours earlier, and it was chosen to be a very simple way to communicate 11 on the 11th. So please stand for the rendering of military honors by the Madison Veterans Firing Squad. I'm going to ask the colors to come forward. Captain Luscraft, please render the military honors, which will be followed by taps. And now I'm going to call on Chaplain Iberzetzig to please give us his benediction.
Before I give the benediction, I wish to honor my grandmother on earth, who was a World War II veteran, Marjorie Marshman. She passed away on the 13th of October at 4:42 at the VA hospital. The Lord took her up to heaven at that time. God bless you, Marge. Our Heavenly Father, we ask your benediction to the rest of us here today. As you have graciously preserved our nation through the years and had led us in wondrous ways, grant that we may be worthy of the highest call as a nation. God bless you all. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Tom. Marge, by the way, was the first woman to command the firing squad. She was a Hawkeye, but we don't hold that against her. She was a very loyal Wisconsin citizen, but grew up in Iowa. And I had the honor of escorting Mary Kolar at the pass and review at her internment. And so I truly appreciate our chaplain bringing some of that information forward. Amazing people, and that's all about the state of Wisconsin and the veterans that we have here. So please be seated. I'd like to conclude my remarks by thanking both Colleen Flaherty and the Office of Department of Veterans Affairs, along with Shannon Miller, who helped provide these programs, and an awful lot of coordination behind the scenes. The State Capitol Police officers have been extremely helpful. And if you notice, when I left the rostrum moments ago, I wanted to coordinate and make sure that we had informed the city of Madison there would be rounds fired. And I was going to do it earlier. There were a few program changes. I forgot to do it. I talked to the Capitol Police officer, and he said, "We took care of it for you." That's the kind of capable people that are in this administration and in this building, and all of you make this happen. It's not just me up here being the master of ceremonies. We also have Eric and Jeremy. They're the ones who provide the sound system, do the chair setup, and are sometimes hard to find because they're always watching things, but they do a terrific job. And finally, a very personal thanks to each and every one of you for attending the ceremony today, to being loyal as you have over the years, and being here in Wisconsin. May God truly bless America, and especially today all of its service members, the veterans and their families, and those in the listening audience. Under a few public service announcements handed out with your programs, there's the Army-Navy game coming up on Saturday, December 10th, and Chris and I were at least two of the Army officers there. There were a lot of Navy people, but they didn't throw us out. They won, even though Army was forecast to win, didn't. And I think most of you know that prior to coming to Wisconsin, some other place, Vince Lombardi was actually a coach at West Point. And that football really started as a military game of endurance and strength building. The second one is Reads Across America, and that is going to be on December 17th out at the Forest Hill Cemetery. And so stay tuned for that if you have a chance. And then finally, we have a member of the Madison Veterans Council, Scott Schaubel. Where are you, Scott? Over here. Scott has suffered with PTSD. He has become a Mission 22, a national organization to treat that kind of situation and assist veterans and their families. He has become an ambassador of that organization, Mission 22. He will be up here after the program. If anyone knows of a service member who is in need, please come up here, because they treat things besides PTSD for traumatic brain injury and also for MST, which is called military sexual trauma. Things happen in service that are not pleasant sometimes, and we need to help these people. So Scott will be up here. And once again, I want to thank all of you for attending. Wish you all a safe travel, and God bless you all. Thank you.